All right, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at the last of our figures from our first wave of Saurozoic Warriors here from Boss Fight Studio. This is Marr Ossis, who's definitely, I feel like, the most different out of all the other ones in Wave 1. The other three all kind of have similarities, but yeah, Marr Ossis here is a big kind of Stegosaurus biker, and he looks really, really cool. I like his vibe a whole lot. I love the leather jacket here over like the tattered kind of like white shirt there. It's got a really, really mean head sculpt despite being an herbivore. And I love the spines going down his back that kind of stick out of the leather jacket. He's the only one that actually has a tail as well, which does come unattached in the package. You have to attach it. It's just on a ball joint. But yeah, no, very, very cool. He definitely comes with the least accessories out of all of them as well. He pretty much only comes with two. I mean, there's three sitting here, but this is really just a shoulder pad that you're supposed to just clip onto his shoulder and call it a day. And yeah, definitely improves the look. That stays on a lot better than I would have expected it to. Like definitely if you like really extend out his arm, it'll fall off. But you know, it does have a nice kind of like, you know, contoured sculpt that actually like locks onto the shoulder. I wish that they'd done something a little bit more like that for the Ceratopsian guards gas mask. But yeah, no, really, really nice sculpt on him. I think he looks super, super cool. But yeah, he only comes with two proper accessories, and obviously that is because one of them is this humongous, like crazy underslung gun here that I really love the vibe of this. It definitely really captures that kind of like 90s aesthetic with the bright pink and the like the faded black on it. It's super punk looking and super cool. I love how it has these like canisters on the side, like almost implying that this is some sort of like big like paint gun or something like that. It's super, super cool looking. It is mostly hollow, but you know, that's fine. And it has these two posable handles that he can use to actually hold it. And he comes with this knife. It's not the same knife as the one that comes with range Brachioana, though it does look pretty similar. Now this one does also does not do the storage quite as well as the other ones do. I mean, he only comes with two accessories, and the knife stores just fine. It stores on the sheath on his arm here. Unfortunately, there isn't really any way to store the giant gun, and I get it, you know, like they really would have had to go out of their way to find some way to do it. Like if they had like a loop on his back here or something that one of these could kind of like one of the handles could kind of loop into, that would have done it for me. But I get it because it's like it's a really big gun, and B, there's not really as much real estate on his back because of his, you know, like actual spines and stuff like that. So yeah, he really doesn't have anywhere to hold this. I mean, it's definitely the kind of gun that like if you're not using it, you might just like put it on the ground anyway. So yeah, you know, that's not the end of the world, but was kind of a bummer to see that, but not too bad. I really like his little arm guards here, which are definitely have a more of like a TMNT vibe of like having, you know, just like little asymmetrical arm guards, where this one is just like a plank of wood and this one is like this, you know, like spiky piece of metal or whatever. Very cool. He's got a lot of really nice like asymmetrical stuff going on. And yeah, no, just overall looks very, very cool. Has the most kind of like attitude out of all four of them, I feel like, as well. In terms of articulation, the head is on a ball joint, so it can kind of rotate around. Actually, I don't know, I've been saying that these are ball joints, but maybe this one is definitely a universal joint. I don't know, maybe that's true of the other ones as well. But so it can rotate and look up and down like that. The mouth does open. The mouth on mine is a little bit loose, like it sometimes just kind of wants to like drop open. You can usually get it to stay, but it's a little bit annoying. And then the base of the neck is also, this definitely is on a ball joint, yeah. So you can kind of rotate it around like that. Though, you know, at a certain point, you're kind of misaligning the spines there. Though I feel like that looks pretty good. You don't really get a ton of up and down movement. It's mostly just for that rotation, but pretty solid joint setup there. The shoulders are just like the other ones. You know, they can rotate around and hinge out to the side. Obviously, if you hinge that one out too far to the side, then the shoulder pad kind of pops up. I'm not sure why they didn't do his like they did the other ones, where with like the, you know, loose fitting like strand of like thin plastic. I feel like that would have been a little bit more solid, but maybe they just liked the look better of it not being physically attached there. And you know what? I do too, so it's whatever. The elbows get, you know, a little under 90 degrees of bend there at the elbow. The wrists, which, you know, new hand sculpts here as well. He's got these nice like spikes on his knuckles, which is again really cool. They've got rotation and that hinge back and forth just like the other ones. Again, ball joint at the waist. He's kind of chunky, but you did get a decent amount of range out of that. Obviously the rotation, but obviously the wiggle back and forth as well is pretty decent. His hips are also on ball joints, can rotate forward, rotate back, go out to the side. He's got a thigh swivel. The knees get barely any bend at all, just because of how these two like knee pad pieces attach, where they kind of get in the way of the joint. His knees are always kind of a little bit bent up anyway, but definitely not as much range there, which I get. He's got shorter legs, and then the feet themselves, they actually have a tilt forward and back, which I'm not sure the other ones have now that I think about it. Oh, they do too. Okay, yeah. So maybe not something I mentioned for the other three, but they also, their feet can tilt forward and back, and then they have that rotation that is tied to the ankle tilt. And he's got big stomper feet there, so it's nice to be able to actually get his feet like firmly planted on the ground. And then the one bit of articulation that he has that the other ones don't have is because he has a tail, it has articulation. It's on a ball joint, can rotate around like that. Looks pretty solid. No separate joints in the middle there, but still pretty good. So yeah, he's got a pretty good amount of versatility here in terms of how he actually uses his weapon. You kind of lose some options here in terms of the posability, because if you want him to actually hold it underslung, it's really, once you get it in his hands, it's kind of just that way. You kind of have to do it this way, because otherwise the canisters kind of bump into him. So you kind of have to have, he doesn't have a ton of like options here. It's mostly just like, oh, there, the handles are on hinges there, just as a way of like getting it into his hands, but you don't really get a huge variety of poses here. It's kind of just like you get him into his hands, and that's pretty much all you got. Like, you're not really getting any like dramatic poses with this. So, you can kind of like adjust its angle a little bit, but mostly it just kind of stays in place there. You can, if you want, to, what I kind of do is I pose him sometimes where this is like, you can kind of get it where he's holding it up in one hand. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that works. But in terms of the versatility of the two-handed poses is like, yeah, you pretty much just get into his hands and he kind of just like holds it to himself and not much else from there. I don't know why this is not, there we go, sitting properly. So you can actually get that going on and then get him holding his knife. So he's actually got both here. I'll put his knife upside down. He strikes me as the kind of guy who would hold his knife upside down, and it's pretty decent weapon there regardless, even if it didn't have the blade. And I think that looks pretty cool. The one thing that is like, I feel like the sculpt on him is maybe the best out of all four of them in terms of like having fun little details and stuff like that. But in terms of the actual like versatility of like his posability and his use of his accessories, he's kind of the weakest in my opinion, just because like, he's got this one big accessory which kind of just like takes over, and you can't do a ton with it other than like the one kind of pose with him holding it, which looks great, but it's just a little bit less playable than the other three, I find, but still pretty good. Definitely, pros and cons for all of these guys. I just like all four of them, and I would recommend any of them. So it's kind of just a matter of preference, but I really do like the way he looks, and the whole biker aesthetic I think is really, really awesome. In terms of comparisons for him, for a couple standard ones, here he is with a Masters of the Universe figure and a deluxe class Transformer. So you can see he's quite a bit shorter than the other ones, just because he's a lot bulkier, like he's wider and deeper, but he's definitely a bit shorter than the other guys. He's kind of more hunched over. Here he is with the kind of like retro vintage Bebop and Rocksteady for some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comparisons. And then here he is with the other three from the first wave while I drop He-Man on the floor. Yeah, so you can see he's quite a bit shorter than they are, but also a bit wider. So definitely a nice kind of variety there. Like I said, like they're all, these two share a lot of parts. He weirdly does not share a lot of parts with them, which is kind of unexpected, honestly. I was expecting a lot of his like shoulder pieces and thigh pieces to be the same as them, but they're actually not. So they can have a different like skin texture, which is really nice. And he doesn't share any parts with any of them either. But these three kind of like, they're all kind of similar sort of proportions, whereas he's definitely a lot different. So I like him in terms of just having a bit of variety there. I also love that his little beak here is kind of like picked out in hot pink. I love all the hot pink on these guys. I think it's one of my favorite visual parts of this toy line. But yeah, that's what he looks like with them. And then I didn't really show them off with this guy before, but just because it's another toy line that they kind of remind me of. Here they are with a Toxic Crusader. Definitely a similar vibe with all the like bright neon-y colors. But yeah, no, not a ton else to say about him. Like I said, he's got a really, really nice sculpt, and the accessories accessories that he does come with are really cool and he does use them well, but he's you know, he just has a little bit less to play around with than the other three, I feel like, which is not bad, you know, but just something a little bit different. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to him. Just a really, really cool figure, and definitely I'd recommend any of these guys. Like I said before, I don't know that I'm necessarily going to pick up any of wave 2 of these guys. Like they all look good, but I feel like, you know, I kind of get the idea with these guys. Like they're fun, but you know, I think I've sort of had my fill, unless there's like any ones in the future that are like a particular dinosaur that I'm really attached to. But mostly I think I'm fine kind of just keeping wave 1 and calling it a day. I don't really need a ton of these guys, and I don't want them to be, you know, too drowned out on the shelf either. I feel like they'll the fewer of them I have, the more that they'll actually like pop in a display. So yeah, I probably won't pick up wave 2, but you know, maybe I'll pick up some more of these guys in the future. We'll see. Kind of depends on, oh, that's why this is sitting the wrong way. I was wondering why the knife was not sitting in the sheath super well. That's why. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to them. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Make sure to check me out on my Instagram account. That's toys.n.art. And without further ado, here we have Saurozoic Warriors Marr Ossis.